Hello everybody, my name is Starrapter. Welcome to my spoiler-free review for Star Wars Rebel Rising. This is written by Beth Revis, but first I want to send a very special thank you to people over at Disney Lucasfilm Press for sending me this advanced review copy. It's much appreciated. So getting into the review for Rebel Rising. What did I think? First thoughts. I thought it was everything I expected, but not much more for a Jyn Erso kind of origin story. So getting into the plot without giving too much away, this story pretty much spans the entire life of Jyn Erso from the age of 8 when she first gets picked up by Saw Gerrera on Lamu after her mother is killed and Krennic takes away her father, and it goes all the way up into the events of Rogue One where we first see her arrive on Yavin 4. And in between that, basically the first half of this novel from the age of 8 to about 16, she's being trained and groomed by Saw Gerrera to become one of his, his fighters, his rebel fighters. And then we actually see that pivotal moment in her life when Saw Gerrera leaves her, and then she's basically on her own until she gets captured by the Empire and is put into the Wobani labor camp. So this story is really about Jyn becoming who she is in Rogue One. She first starts off, obviously, at the age of 8, trying to figure out more about where her father is gone, and then she turns out that she starts to build up a hatred for her father after what Saw talks about and other things she hears. And then it kind of transitions to her hating Saw Gerrera in a way, because then he leaves her intentionally because she becomes like a liability, as mentioned in Rogue One itself. And then, she keeps finding these other people throughout her life that she tries to get close to, and they kind of just disappear. And that's kind of how it is with her, and that's how it turns her into more of like a lone wolf type of character. So moving into my positives, I first want to talk about Saw Gerrera. Beth Revis did an excellent job with kind of fleshing out this character, giving him more of a backstory. I don't think we've ever gotten this much of Saw Gerrera in anything in canon so far, so I really appreciate that. If you didn't like Saw Gerrera before, then it's going to be very hard to come out of this novel without liking him a little bit more, because she does a great job with really humanizing him. He becomes basically Jyn's father, so you really see that loving kind of relationship, but kind of tough love at the same time between Jyn and Saw. So I can't talk about the positives of this novel without talking about Jyn Erso herself. Obviously, this entire story is told from the perspective of Jyn Erso, and we get to know why she's so jaded by this whole galactic civil war. She works for both the Empire and the Rebels at some point in this novel, and she sees the aftermath of working with both. When they're battling each other, Rebels and the Empire, they don't care about the innocents. There's a lot of collateral damage that goes on, and it just causes her to really think. And there's just so many great quiet moments in this novel where she's really thinking about, like, there's these flashbacks going through her head with her father and with her mother. So we really understand, like, what it is that she's going through. And jumping off that point, I want to talk about how emotionally resonant this story is. I did not expect it to pull at my heartstrings the way it did. The relationship between Jyn and Saw, the relationship that Jyn had with her father and now her passed away mother, and then relationships she has with new characters. I really felt like this was actually hitting me in the feels a couple points. So moving to my negatives of Rebel Rising, I want to talk about the lack of suspense. And the lack of suspense was kind of contributed to that a lot of things were predictable in this novel. I've seen them coming, so it just didn't provide me that level of excitement reading it. Also, I want to say that this was very similar to the Ahsoka novel. At least halfway through Rebel Rising did feel a lot like Ahsoka, her being on her own, and I was like, didn't we kind of read this story in a way already? And then just the repeating of the Rogue One scenes constantly between all these different mediums really has me at the exhaust point. And my one last criticism of this novel was it felt more like a young adult novel first and a Star Wars story second, which it should be the other way around. I mean, we've already seen that tackled successfully with young adult novels such as Ahsoka and Lost Stars. So yeah, there were elements that were very Star Warsy, but just not enough of them. Every time I read a Star Wars novel, I want to feel immersed in the Star Wars galaxy. That's my first kind of point on the checklist. Does this feel like Star Wars? Yeah, it did at points, but mostly it was more of the young adult vein. So with that being said, I'm going to give Star Wars Rebel Rising a score of a 7.5 out of 10. If you're a Jyn Erso fan, definitely pick this one up. I will admit, I'm not the biggest Jyn Erso fan, but I still enjoyed this novel. I liked seeing the fledgling kind of rebellion with the different rebel cells, and of course Saw Gerrera. I always want to see more Saw Gerrera, but there were moments where I was like, okay, where are we going with this and whatnot. But definitely check it out if you are a fan of Rogue One. There's lots of cool tie-ins with the Catalyst book as well as Rogue One itself. So I want to hear what you guys thought of Star Wars Rebel Rising. Did you enjoy it? Let me know in that comment section below. Also, feel free to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already so you don't miss any more of my content. I offer tons of other things such as movies, video games, and Star Wars. So that being said, I'm Starrapter. Thank you for watching, and bye-bye. So, did you like the video? Then make sure you rate it a thumbs up, and if you did that, go over there, hit that Starrapter head to subscribe to my channel. Doing so will keep you up to speed on all of my latest content. Speaking of which, you can see a couple of my recent uploads down below. I'm also on social media, so what are you waiting for? Let's start nerding out.